Hello friends, today we are going to read chapter 2 of As A Man Thinketh, written by James Allen. Chapter 2 is Effect of Thoughts on Circumstances. Here the first quote is the human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can heave a way to any goal, though wall of granite intervene. Effect of thoughts on circumstances. Man's mind may be likened to a garden which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind. Just as a gardener cultivates his plot, keeping it free from weeds and growing the flower and fruit which he requires, so you may a man tend the garden of his mind, weeding out all the wrong, useless and impure thoughts, and cultivating towards perfection the flower and fruits of right, useful and pure thoughts. By pursuing this process, a man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life. He also reveals within himself the law of thought and understands with ever-increasing accuracy how the thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of his character, circumstances, and destiny. Thought and character are one, and as character can only manifest and discover itself through environment and circumstances, the outer conditions of a person's life will always be found to be harmoniously related to his inner state. This does not mean that a man's circumstances at any given time are an indication of his entire character, but that those circumstances are so intimately connected with some vital thought element within himself that for the time being they are indispensable of his development. Every man is where he is by the law of his being. The thought which he has built into his character have brought him there, and in the arrangement of his life there is no element of chance, but all is the result of a law which cannot err. This is just as true of those who feel out of harmony with their surroundings as of those who are connected with them. Circumstances grow out of thoughts. As a progressive and evolving being, man is where he is that he may learn, that he may grow. And as he learns the spiritual lesson which any circumstances contains for him, it passes away and gives place to other circumstances. Man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. But when he realizes that he is a creative power, and that he may command the hidden soil and seed of his being out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. The circumstances grow out of thought. Every man knows who has for any length of time practiced self-control and self-purification. For he will have noticed that the altercation in his circumstances has been an exact ratio with his altered mental condition. So too is this, that when a man earnestly applies himself to remedy the defects in his character and makes swift and marked progress, he passes rapidly through a succession of vicissitudes. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, that which it loves, and also that which it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspiration, it falls to the level of its unchastened desire, and circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. Every thought seed sown or allowed to fall into the mind and to take root there produces its own blossom sooner or later into act, and bearing its own fruitage of opportunity and circumstances. Good thoughts bear good fruits, bad thoughts bad fruits. The outer world of circumstances shapes itself to the inner world of thought, and both present and unpresent external conditions are factors which make for the ultimate good of the individual. As the reaper of his own harvest, man learns both by suffering and bliss. Following the inmost desire, aspirations, thoughts, by which he allows himself to be dominated, pursuing the will of wisp of impure imaginings, or steadfastly walking the highway of strong and high endures. A man at last arrives at their fruition and fulfillment in the outer conditions of his life. The law of growth and adjustment everywhere obtains. Justice is exact. A man does not come to the almshouse or the jail by the tyranny of fate or circumstances, but by the pathway of groveling, that is low thoughts and base desires. Nor does a pure-minded man fall suddenly into crime by stress of any mere mental force. The criminal thought had long been secretly fostered in the heart, and the hour of opportunity revealed its gathered power. Circumstances that does not make the man, it reveals him to himself. No such conditions can exist as descending into vice and its attendant sufferings apart from vicious imaginations, or ascending into virtue and its pure happiness without the continued cultivation of virtues. Aspirations, and man therefore, as the Lord and Master of thoughts, is the maker of himself, the shaper and outer environment. Even at birth and soul comes to its own and thoughts. Every step of its earthly pilgrimage, it attracts those combinations of conditions which reveals itself, which are the reflections of its own purity and impurity, its strength and weakness. Men do not attract that which he wants, but that which they are. Their whims, fancies, and ambitions are thwarted at every step, but their inmost thoughts and desires are fed with their own food. Be it soul or whole or clean, the divinity that shapes our hands is in ourself. It is our very self. Only himself, manacle man, thought and action are the gallows of fate, their imprison being base. They are also the angels of freedom, they liberate being noble. Not what he wishes and prays for does a man get, but what he justly earns. His wishes and prayers are only gratified and answered when they harmonize with his thoughts and actions. In the light of this truth, that then is the meaning of fighting against circumstances. It means that a man is continually revolting against an effect without, while all the time he is nourishing and preserving its cause in his heart. That cause may take the form of conscious voice or an unconscious weakness, but whether it stubbornly retards the effect of its possessor and thus call aloud for remedy. These three examples of ignorance. Men are anxious to improve their circumstances but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. The man who does not shrink from self-crucifixion can never fail to accomplish the object upon which his heart is set. This is true of earthly as of heavenly things. Even the man whose sole object is to acquire wealth must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices before he can accomplish his object, and how much more so he would realize a strong and well-poised life. Here is a man who is rarely poor. He is extremely anxious that his surroundings and home comfort should be improved. Yet, all the time he seeks his work, and consider he is justified in trying to deceive his employer on the ground of the insufficiency of his wage. Such a man does not understand the simplest rudiment of those principles which are the basis of true prosperity, and it not only totally unfitted to rise out of his rashness, but he actually attracting to himself a still deeper rashness by dwelling in and acting out indolent, deceptive, and unmanly thoughts. He is a rich man who is the victim of a painful and persistent disease as a result of gluttony. He is willing to give large sum of money to get rid of it, but he will not sacrifice his gluttonous desires. He wants to gratify his taste of rich and unnatural viands and have his health as well. Such a man is totally unfit to have health because he has not yet learned the first principle of a healthy life. Here is an employer of labor who adopts crooked measures to avoid paying the regulation wage, and in the hope of making larger profit reduces the wage of his work people. Such a man is altogether unfitted for prosperity. And when he finds himself bankrupt, both as regard reputation and riches, he blames circumstances, not knowing that he is the sole author of his condition. I am introduced these three cases merely an illustrative of the truth that man is the causer, though nearly always unconsciously of his circumstances, and that whilst aiming at a good end, he is continuously frustrating its accomplishment by encouraging thoughts and desires which cannot possibly harmonize with that end. Such cases would be multiplied and vary almost indefinitely, but this is not necessary, as the reader can, if he so revolves, trace the action of love thoughts in his own mind and life, and until this is done, mere external facts cannot serve as a ground of reasoning. Good cannot produce evil. Circumstances, however, are so complicated, thought is so deeply rooted, and the conditions of happiness vary so vastly with individuals, that a man's entire soul condition, although it may be known to himself, cannot be judged by another from the external aspect of his life alone. A man may be honest in certain directions, yet suffers privation. A man may be dishonest in certain directions, yet acquires wealth, but the conclusion usually from the one man fails because of his particular honesty, and that the other person prosperous because of his particular dishonesty, is the result of superficial judgment, which assumes that the dishonest man is almost totally corrupt and the honest man almost entirely virtuous. In the light of a deeper knowledge and wider experience, such judgment is found to be erroneous. The dishonest man may have some admirable virtues which he other does not possess, and the honest man obnoxious vice which are absent in the other. The honest man reaps the good result of his honest thoughts and acts. He also brings upon himself the sufferings which his vice produces. The dishonest man likewise guards his own sufferings and happiness. It is pleasing to human vanity to believe that one suffers because of one's virtue, but not until a man he acts repeated, avariceably, bitter and impure the thoughts from his mind, and washed every sinful stain from his soul, can he be in position to know and desire that his sufferings are the result of his good and not of his bad qualities, and on the way to a yet long before he has reached that supreme perfection, he will have found working in his mind and life the great law which is absolutely just and which cannot therefore give good for evil, evil for good. Possessed of such knowledge, he will then know, looking back upon his past ignorance and blindness, that his life is and always was justly ordered, and that all his past experience, good and bad, were equitable outworking of his evolving yet unevolving self. What you are what you think. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results. Bad thoughts and actions can never produce good results. This is but saying that nothing can come from corn but corn, nothing from nettles but nettles. Man understands this law in the natural world and work with it, but few understand it in the mental and moral world, though its operations there is not just as simple and undebating, and therefore do not cooperate with it. Suffering is always the effect of wrong thought in some direction. It is an indication that the individual is out of harmony with it himself, with the law of his being. The sole and supreme use of suffering is to purify, to burn out all that is useless and impure. Suffering ceases from him who is pure. There could be no object in burning gold after the dross had been removed and perfectly pure and enlightened being could not suffer. The circumstances which a man encounters with suffering are the result of his own mental disharmony. The circumstances which a man encounters with blessedness are the result of his own mental harmony. Blessedness, not mental, material possession, is the measure of right thought. Restness, not lack of material possessions, is the measure of wrong thought. A man may be cursed and rich, he may be blessed and poor. Blessedness and riches are only joined together when the riches are rightly and wisely used, and the poor man only descends into wretchedness when he regards his lot as a burden unjustly imposed. Indigence and indulgence are the two extremes of wretchedness. They are both equally unnatural and result of mental disorder. A man is not rightly conditions until he is happy, healthy, and prosperous being, and happiness, health, and prosperity are the result of a harmonious adjustment of the inner with the outer of man with his surroundings. Discover the hidden power within. A man only begins to be a man when he ceases to win and reveal, and commences to search for the hidden justice which regulates his life, and he adapts his mind to that regulating factor. He ceases to accuse others as the cause of his conditions and builds himself up in strong and noble thoughts. Ceases to kick against circumstances, but begins to use them as aid to his more rapid progress and as a mean of discovering the hidden power and possibility within himself. Law, not confusion, is the dominating principle in the universe. Justice, not injustice, is the soul and substance of life, and righteousness, not corruption, is the molding and moving force in the spiritual government of the world. This is being so, man has but to right himself to find that the universe is right, and during the process of putting himself right, he will find that he alters his thought towards things and other other peoples will after towards him. The proof of this truth is in every person and is therefore admits of heavy investigation by systematic introspections and self-analysis. Let a man radically alter his thoughts and he will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will affect in the material condition of his life. The aftermath of corrupt thoughts. Man imagines that thought can be kept secret, but it cannot. It rapidly crystallizes into habit, and habit solidifies into circumstances. Bestial thoughts crystallizes into habits of drunkenness and sensuality, which solidify into circumstances of destination and destitution and disease. Impure thoughts of every kind crystallizes into enervating and confusing habits, which solidify into distracting and adverse circumstances. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecision crystallizes into weak, unmanly, and irresolute habit, which solidify into circumstances of failure, indigence, and slavish independence. Lazy thoughts crystallizes into habits of uncleanliness and dishonesty, which solidify into circumstances of foulness and beggary. Hateful and condemnatory thoughts crystallizes into habits of accusation and violence, which solidify into circumstances of injury and persecution. Selfish thoughts of all kinds crystallizes into habit of self-seeking, which solidify into circumstances more or less distressing. The aftermath of beautiful thoughts. On the other hand, beautiful thoughts of all kinds crystallizes into habits of grace and kindliness, which solidify into genial and sunny circumstances. Pure thoughts crystallize into habits of temperance and self-control, which solidify into circumstances of repose and peace. Thoughts of courage, self-reliance, and decision crystallizes into many manly habits, which solidify into circumstances of success, plenty, and freedom. Energetic thoughts crystallizes into habits of cleanliness and industry, which solidify into circumstances of pleasantness. Gentle and forgiving thoughts crystallizes into habits of gentleness, which solidify into protective and preservative circumstances. Loving and unselfish thoughts crystallizes into habit of self-forgetfulness for others, which solidify into circumstances of sure and abiding prosperity and true riches. Thought shapes your circumstances. A particular train of thoughts persisted in, be it good or bad, cannot fail to produce its results. On the character and circumstances, a man cannot directly choose his circumstances, but he can choose his thoughts and so indirectly yet surely shape his circumstances. Nature helps every man to the gratification of the thoughts which he most encourages, and opportunities are presented which will most speedily bring to the surface both the good and evil thoughts. Let a man cease from his sinful thoughts, and all the world will soften towards him, and he be ready to help him. Let him put away his weakly and sickly thoughts, and lo, opportunity will spring up on every hand to aid his strong resolves. Let him encourage good thoughts, and no hard fate shall bind him down to restlessness and shame. The world is your kaleidoscope, and the varying combination of colors which at every succeeding moment it presents to you the exquisitely adjusted pictures of your ever moving thoughts. So you will be what you will to be. Let failure find its false contents in that poor word environment. But spirit scorns it and is free. Its master's time, it conquers space, it cows the boastful trickster's chance, and bid the tyrant circumstances, uncrowned and fill a servant's place. The human will that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can heave away to any goal. Though wall of granite intervene, be not impatient in delay, but wait as one who understands. When spirits rise and command, the gods are ready to obey. Thanks friends for listening so patiently till here. We will soon upload chapter 3, so stay tuned.